Can you talk a little bit about the casting process and how you ended up with 6 amazing performers?
Yeah, they're great. We got really lucky. Well, it happened in a traditional way, insofar as we have a great casting director. It starts there, Jeannie McCarthy, who's amazing, and because we live in the world with the World Wide Web, we saw kids from pretty much every English-speaking country in the world. I think I saw audition tapes from certainly all over the U.S., all over Canada, all over the UK, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and then we brought in the kids to Los Angeles, the ones that could come. George Mackay, who plays Bodovin, and Nicholas Hamilton, who plays Relian, well done, is from Australia. So they did their callbacks via Skype with him, in fact. I brought them to the other kids to LA, and we played theater games and did improvisations, and then we had a boot camp beforehand.
I was just going to ask, did they know going in what they were all going to be expected to do? Because I'm assuming they were really rock climbing and they were really skinning animals, and
yeah.
was that a hard sell for any of them?
No, they loved that idea. But we couldn't expect that the children could rock climb and play instruments and fight and know how to butcher or dress a deer.
They had to stop, and they wanted to skin everything they saw, squirrels, everything. It was like,
and
stop.
do archery. As soon as they were cast, as soon as George Mackay was cast, he was doing 4 hours of yoga a day. Sammy Isler and Annalise Basso, who play the 2 teenage girls, they butchered a sheep. And because I wanted them to learn some basic knife skills, and everyone was playing music every day. They were rock climbing every day. We did martial arts. I've done some Brazilian jiu-jitsu and MMA, and I had one of my coaches come up and teach them like basic grappling skills. And we did music every day. Yeah.
So were you ready for all of these challenges, Viggo? Had you already
No.
rock climbed in?
I don't think I have a future in rock climbing or playing the bagpipe.
Viggo also had bagpipe lessons, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or playing the guitar, probably either. But it was fortunate that the producers, that the production company allowed Matt to do things that way, that we got to meet, not just to hone the skills we'd have to show on film, but just to get to know each other. It was a great way.
The real purpose of it is not to expect
bond.
anyone to learn to master any of these skills in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever time we had. That's impossible. It's really for them to all get to know each other and to bond and to begin to look at Viggo as their father and their friend and to trust him. And yeah.
Well, could you both talk a little bit about what your own experiences as fathers that you brought to, first to the script of the film and to your performance in it? Since the role of the father plays is so key to the entire film.
Want me to start? The genesis of the movie came out of my questions about parenthood and about being a father. I don't know that. I always say endings are meaning, and you've all seen the movie, so for me, that's the answer. The questions I had is at the end of the movie. So I didn't really work anything out that I didn't know beforehand. The working out part was writing the script, I think. Production is, as we all know, about time and money, and there's never enough of either. So most of the time, what I tried to do on set was create an environment where all the other interpretive artists could come and do their work. And it's patience and play. We show up to explore and to play. That's really my job, I think. The questions of what I brought to bear as a father was just that I had a lot of confusion about being a father, and in many ways, the part that he plays is aspirational, as a kind of fantasy of that I wish I could be that guy. So, yeah.
And to your?
Obviously, as I read the script the first time, well, first of all, I wondered why does it have this title? What's it about? First few pages, I was hooked, but I had initially incorrect idea about where it was headed. It looked like very well written. The dialogue was good. I was 10, maybe 15 pages in, and I thought, okay, this is a movie about, I suppose it's a liberal, utopian fantasy. Yeah. Right, and that, fair enough, but it's a kind of a limited audience probably for this, but it's well written, and I assume that what you would see is this family, this father and his 6 kids, their enemies would be, or their obstacles would be conservative thinking and conservative people, and there would probably be some humor involved, but that's essentially what it'd be about, and it turns out to be much more complex than that. You know, the father is flawed, and I quickly realized that the title was somewhat ironic, and that you could even have a question mark at the end of it, if you wanted to. But I obviously thought about how I had raised my son, who's now 28, how my father had raised me and his father him, and just different models. I thought about family, about my family immediately, but I also thought in I guess this larger context about communication, about the problems with not interacting with others, not really listening to points of view that are quite different than your own, or from people that you might not like or agree with, that you might be afraid of. As we were making the movie, we talked a lot about how that applied in some way to society, and I think that what's great about the story, like any story that's good enough, it's well written enough, and in this case, well made enough, that you think about larger issues outside of the movie story. I thought about it at the time, and even more now that it's come out, the way things are going in the country right now. There is a problem with communication, with people not listening to each other. And this movie, in large part, it made me think about that constantly. We talked about that a lot, that when people don't listen to each other, when they isolate, and there isn't interaction, as Baudelaire says in the story, everything I know is from books, and living in isolation, and they're handicapped socially,
Well, in scripting the movie and in building the performance, are you planning on how you want the audience to feel about Ben as the character changed? I mean, in other words, that you're building so that the audience has sympathy for him, and then in another scene they're actually against him or hostile towards him.
We didn't talk about it in terms of performance. I didn't say, now's the time that we don't like you. But certainly, certainly that was built into the DNA of the narrative. I mean, I like movies where your allegiance or alliance or who you are following or supporting or agreeing with changes constantly. I think that makes for a complex narrative, and I think it's also how, that replicates life more accurately. I think none of us think we're the villain of our own movie. We all think we're the hero of our own movie, and we all go into I think we all go in with the best of intentions, as does the character. So yes, I talked to Frank Langella about that a great deal when he was first cast, and we were talking about the part. I said, I think you're antagonistic towards Viggo, to Viggo's character, but you're not the antagonist. And he loved that idea and really wanted to play that. And
he did a great job. By the way, it's hard to do. He doesn't have as much screen time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely, he did a wonderful job. And with that relatively little screen time, he got that across. It was a complex character, and you can't help, just the way it's written, but especially the way he played it, you can't help but say to yourself, no matter where you're coming from, he's right. He's got a good point in several instances, and that's what's great about the script. The characters are layered. Each of the kids, it's rare that you see teenage girls, for example, who aren't reacting to a teenage boy or some male figure, reacting against or pining for or annoyed at. They're thinking for themselves. The characters, it's one of the best written scripts that I've read in a long time, maybe ever, where all the characters stand out no matter how much time they're on screen. And I thought that both Frank and Ann Dow did a great job of surprising you, because you're expecting, even though the stories become quite complex by the time you reach their house, you're waiting for them to be these
caricatures or
that starts
tigers.
Actually with the Catherine Hahn, Steve Zahn section of the film with those characters as well. Is that she says everyone's just doing the best they know how. We're just all trying to do the best we can, and I think that there's deep truth in that statement.
Right.
And so yeah.
So how long were you actually in production? As we were watching,
did we get to shoot?
Exactly.
We shot for 39 days, which is a lot for an independent film. I think it was it Dustin Hoffman who recently was talking about films in the 70s and said that they shot for 100 days for The Graduate? When someone asked him why were movies so good in the 70s, and he said, well, among other things, a film with no special effects was just people talking. We had 100 days. You know, independent films largely get 20, 22 days. So 39 days sounds like a lot, but then you put in the equation that we have 6 kids in every scene, so you think about covering 6 kids. And then because of child labor laws, which are a great thing, but make it impossible to shoot the youngest ones for more than 5-6 hours.
Right.
Many locations,
Many
a lot of
locations where
moves.
because it's a road movie where we do different locations every day, and many of them are really in the middle of nowhere. We're in 2 states, and we have two kind of stunts and with kids, and 2 musical numbers with kids. So it was hard. I mean, it's always hard. I mean, I think you never have, as I said, you never have enough time or money, but. Yeah.
Well, and were you said that you were already somewhat prepared for the outdoor scenes and for the lifestyle that Ben has created, but were you also familiar with the writers that he teaches the kids, with the philosophies, with the political positions that he's teaching?
Most of them. I mean, Matt would very generously sent me a box with a lot of books some of which we got the rights to use in the movie. And I had read all of them, except there were some that are about special high performance athlete training, something.
Training Olympic athletes.
Yeah. And that I did. They were pretty good. And but that was. And it was great to share them with the kids, and the kids, even the little ones, they were interested. You know, that bus was full of books, and the teepee
On
was
the
full of
first day of
books.
shooting, I gave them all a backpack filled with books, and half of them looked at me like, "Really?
We just finished
the summer.
school."
It's the summer, and you're giving me a backpack full of books." But you know, there was like Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States for children. There's a book for kids. It's a great book. And then the older ones, I gave the grown-up version, and yeah.
It was an amazing collaboration and a beautiful film. Thank you both for the movie, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.